As we've heard so many times before, we hear it one more time, that it is absolutely necessary to give rise to the proper motivation before setting out with whatever Dharma activity, be it the practice, or in this particular case, the listening to Dharma information, to Dharma teachings, the studying of Dharma for that matter. The attitude, of course, should be the attitude of the Bodhisattvas, of those who have awakened their heart, opened their heart to the welfare of beings. It's the attitude that is commonly known as bodhicitta, which is the attitude that allows us to act for the sake and welfare, not only of our petty little selves, but all sentient beings, not a single one excluded. It is said that whatever good, whatever merit is being accumulated under the influence of such an attitude will not be exhausted until we ourselves have achieved the awakening of Buddhahood for the sake of beings. Whereas, on the other hand, ordinary merit, so to speak, that has been accumulated without this attitude at heart will by all means also bring about its positive fruition. However, once that has happened, that merit is exhausted. So therefore, with that attitude at heart, we should set out to listen to the instructions that Rinpoche is about to give.
And then I did this, how I did that did our onboard, my onboard dented, consultant did that, and also letter. You think it's our Paracheva Pango. Paracheva Kang, Razon, Monsulzon, Yansulins, and then our consulting, Yana Garon get Damba, Yana Gesser get Damba, Yana Samba getting get Damba, Lane, Razon get Namba, Dudley. And then they don't know, and I don't Yansulan by Yamina, Samba Samba.
We have heard before how Dharma students, Dharma practitioners are of either of three types. We have heard of those who are of the highest, the greatest capacity, those who are of medium ability or capacity, and those who have the least capacity. If we were someone of the highest capacity, which would correspond to a person that has already studied and practiced the Dharma in many previous lifetimes and therefore brought about all sorts of qualities, insights and understanding, then by all means we could practice as the King Indrabhuti, as we have heard his story. We could practice without having to give up worldly pleasures, sensory pleasures. We could live fully in the world, partaking in the world to its fullest extent, and still practice the Dharma and proceed through our practice of Dharma successfully. However, if we're not of that greatest, of that highest capacity, then we might be a person whose capacity corresponds to those of medium ability. And as it continues to say in the text, those of medium capacity would give up most of their worldly activities and take upon themselves the monastic way of life. If we were to do that, we could again take vows, monastic vows of various degrees upon ourselves. Of course, the fullest degree, the fullest extent of these would be the ordination as a fully ordained person, a fully ordained monk or nun, bhikshu or bhikshuni for that matter. We could also take the lesser monastic degree of ordination, which is that of a novice, or we could take the extended lay vows, which also include celibacy. So one of the three types of vows of individual liberation we could take upon ourselves and practice accordingly, either as a fully ordained person, as a novice, or as a lay person with the somewhat extended lay commitment. Even if we were to take the one or other type of ordination upon ourselves, still there would be some things which we could not abandon. Even though most of our worldly activities would have been abandoned, still we need to gather food. Having gathered food, we also need drink, and we also need to clothe ourselves, at least to a certain extent. So we're not able to give up food, drink, or clothing, and even though most worldly activities may have been abandoned, we would still gather occasionally either of these three. And it is said that most of the masters, the panditas, the great scholars, as well as siddhas and teachers of both India and Tibet were and are of this particular type. Then Kamachakma goes on to say, or to inform us about the least type of practitioner with the least ability. He goes on to say that the least are unable to bring about or to accomplish both goals, which means to say they cannot possibly go after the realization of Dharma practice, at the same time lead a worldly life. So they decide upon the one or the other. Accordingly, it says they cannot perform either Dharma or both Dharma and worldly activity. These are the type of people who then eventually decide solely on Dharma practice and leave all life all thoughts of this life completely behind. As it says in the text, they cast away all thoughts of this life, food and clothing, which means to say that they avail of themselves of whatever is available at any time. Should they be able to gather some food by any means, then they will feed themselves. If there is no food available, they will solely subsist on the food of meditative absorption, as it is called, food of samadhi. Similarly, clothing. If clothing is available, of course they will make good use of it. If none is available, well, then there's nothing to be done about it. And such type of practitioners who in this way leave all worldly life and all thoughts of worldly life, food, clothing, etc. behind are exemplified by the great yogins such as Milarepa, Sampa, and others of that particular sort.
Untitled Chapter the Tonki, the Gungundu, Amaga, Mala, Nini, Nama Drabala, in Matakoji, Anika, Tuko Tama, Capson Matakoji, say. The Hidis Hotel and Japachambo Gini, Lama Momboshi, thing. The Lama Tonji, known Sherab Lama, Dadu Magalo, Sanjani, that Tiger, on the Dharma, Mama Tonji, Nonsu Gini, Goma Gypsy, Seni, Goma Dasho, Father, Refana, Gam Dani, Tatula, Trava Topsoma, Milarepa, Tin, on the Tonji, Gungu.
How this kind of practice works, we can all read up in the biography of the master of yogins, Jetsin Milarepa. As we may or may not know, he at first followed the advice of his mother and learned black magic in order to take revenge upon some family members who had brought great suffering and great inconvenience over him, his mother and his sister. And in the course of his practice of black magic, in the course of a wedding ceremony, he killed a lot of people. Eventually he recognized that this was wrongdoing and he meant to atone for it and went in search of various teachers. However, things would not really work out very well with whatever teacher he met, because he was destined to meet the teacher with whom he had a connection from a previous lifetime, who, as we know, was none other but Marpa, the translator. He eventually went into Marpa's presence, and having undergone quite a number of trials and tribulations, he eventually received empowerment, transmission, instruction, etc. from Marpa, and put these into practice. And as we know from Milarepa's biography, he practiced then one-pointedly in the wilderness of mountains, of caves and ravines, etc., and so forth, from his 42nd year until his 80th year. And while doing so, he achieved complete liberation, complete awakening in the process of doing so.
Getamba, Hibatena, Milarepa, Yanko Kutapo, Hipatana, Yoga Castle, and Yankela, and check Jackie to you. And Milarepa, and many young Yomai, check Jackie Yungukan, and I don't come to Kuga. Gola, Marpini, Zengin, Go Generatini, Shink, Sydney, Shaw Napuji, and Shaw Zok Chambo, Dom Damba, then the King, and put it to Mudi, Savali, Chadeva, Tatendo, Bemit, and Shaw Tang Chini, and the King Shaw as a hair, the Maladi Bendanta, Koro Shaw, Nyari one. And the shower that bring the drop window, and then it's in the sentient that never said so ye and now only your day, and Chum Marmochi. And shut down, then we're going to have your name. Then Malari Vendana, Labato, Chimuti, the party is so Yardeva.
One of the stories of Milarepa's life happened in a place in Manang, northern Nepal, in the mountains, which in Tibetan are known as Nyishang. As he was meditating there in his cave, or under his rock overhang rather, one day he heard from the distance the rather ferocious barking of a dog. And he listened to it, and he was wondering what might be going on. And when he then went to take a look, to investigate what the cause of the matter might be, a deer came running out of the forest. The deer was utterly in panic, it was sweating with fear, clearly it was being hunted. But as the deer then came into the presence of Milarepa, it peacefully lay down on his right side. Of course, it didn't take long that the dog that was making the noise, a big fearsome bitch, came running along barking. But as it came upon Milarepa, again, all of a sudden it was just very peaceful when it lay down on his left side.
and crew Milarepa Tomadan, Shawatan, Chimuntuso Tanjila crew, Neha Jane. Aranga Sama Dravala, crew of parties in Sonic, couldn't date in Pandu, not the Milarepa named Rosman. And then Sherab Koron Yaw Yoni, Charon Son Karas, Charon to Dravan in Tiguna, Naranga, Shawasepeka parties of a car is Koronga and they loved it, the Milarepa, that's the Charon Sanji Yomani. And then the Bajo the Mombo Drumna, Yawa the Nasum Gatoman and the Yori. And then Tara Tombe to Drumna, Tara Sunji, the Common, then the Yori song, Milarepa, Jumjig, Chul song. There's a thing on what do you send Johnny. Ah, Sherab, Laman Zeruch, Sherab, Lam Yang Tava, and Shawado, Chumundinita, Sunji, the Sala, Keruchi, Soa Tani, and Milarepa, Charawan Gombo Dojita, Sangan Nilu Moti. Tacharo, Drovanyam, Yang Tava, Chisho, Sami. Tati Kala gets on the Sagit, the Sambo, Yoga Talk, Talky Yoga, Sagit, the Sam. Tiga Tata, Tapu, Yoga. The Tapu, Nona, and Gombo Doja Koro, and Yansur, Yang, Chichak, the City, Gom Jab, they do. Job, Jenna, Koro, Travato, Yoman.
As Milarepa sat there with deer, dog, he knew at this moment, of course, that this was not the end of it, that there was more to come. And, of course, it didn't take long when out of the woods there came the hunter. A big person with an angry face, sweat pouring down, and he was not at all happy with the scene that he beheld of this yogin who sat there with his ferocious dog peacefully by the one side and the deer that he was hunting by the other side. And immediately he complained to Milarepa. He shouted at him and said, "How dare you interfere with my work of hunting? How dare you interfere with my going off after my livelihood of hunting animals, hunting deer for a living? I will show you." And he got his bow and arrow, and he tried to shoot his arrow upon Milarepa. His bow and arrow had never missed before, and he shot the arrow, but the arrow just fell harmlessly by Milarepa's feet. That made the hunter, whose name was Sherab, even more angry, and he gave Milarepa more of shouting and abuse, to which Milarepa calmly replied with one of the many songs of realization that he is famous to have sung. And in that song that he sang, the hunter, he explained about how it is a negative thing to earn one's livelihood by such evil means as killing beings, and he explained in his song to the hunter that if he were to continue in this vein, that the fruition of his negative doing would only be a rebirth in hell runs and corresponding great suffering. Apparently, the words of Milarepa struck a note with the hunter. He was deeply touched by the meaning of Milarepa's word and immediately renounced his negative livelihood. He even asked Milarepa to please accept him as his student. And moreover, he also asked, please also take the deer and my dog under your protection, and please lead all of us to liberation. Milarepa accepted him as his student. He granted him empowerment, transmission, liberating instructions, and sent him off to practice. And in the neighborhood, not far from the place where Milarepa practiced, there was yet another cave that was very high up in the mountains, known as the Vulture's Nest. And Sherab went to practice there. He practiced very intensively, he practiced one-pointedly, and is known to have achieved full liberation, also just as Milarepa, in a single lifetime, and he eventually became known as a great teacher in his own right. Such was the meeting with Milarepa and Gambudor.
Roth about Pentatan, Delum, Detu, Denigan, Navara, Yonin, and Nonsalemans. Maladan, get on about our getting Chindig Sawatan, Dangni, and he come with the there's some counter station, and it's a condition. No sign into the tell a young book, no sign into the tell us a gone. Then mature young so long and young to Charles, the young lady or young Java, Chine, and then remember about the young so long, then young don't talk about them by young child.
In whichever of the three ways you choose to practice, you must keep at it. Never abandoning such practice, experiences and realization will arise, will occur. So whether we choose to practice as the King Indrabhuti did, not having to abandon any sensory pleasures at all, or whether we choose to practice in the way as the majority of Indian and Tibetan masters have practiced by way of taking either kind of ordination upon ourselves, or whether we choose to leave it all behind and go off into the wilderness of the mountains such as Milarepa, Götzampa and the like have done. The important thing is that once we have begun our practice, once we have adopted the way, the path of practice, we must keep at it. It's not something that we do a little bit of every now and then. It is something that we have to keep at continuously at all times, and even if it takes our entire lives, even if it takes even more than one lifetime. So to keep at practice, to keep practicing, to continue practicing at all times to the best of our ability, that is what will eventually bring about experiences, and that will eventually also bring about realizations. So to keep at it diligently, without break, without interruption, that is the way to go about things.
Gaji Jenen, Tane, Ticket and Truba Yeba, Tela Gawa. Gaji Jenen, Lama Donna to Lord Dunin, Tik Dubala, Gawa Tenga, Com Gawa Tam. Tatela Ombol Mandawa, Gaji Tela Ombol, Nembo, Gaji Tela Ombol, Turbo, Gaji Tela Tani Kasi Lana, Tani Hiro Miziva. Gaji Tela. Ranjing the Teba Tangi, Ayanta Bichu Tangi Shiba, Tenga, Ombo, Rapo Tang, Mundrawa, Mombo. Tela Tini, Chila Chava, Kana, Manchati, Gashi Tela, Kondo, Ombo, Chapalati, Gashi Nyong Topa, Chapalati, Mombo, Chagri. Mangashi Tela Chan, Chagrimandu, Tenda, Nyong, the Kondo, Ombo, Lasova, Chapalati, Tini.
Kamachakma goes on to say, because of the different capabilities of individuals, what occurs for the one does not necessarily occur for the other. This just means to say that there are a great many different sorts of individuals out there who may or may not have all sorts of different experiences. What happens for the one does not necessarily happen for the other, as Kamachakma says. And accordingly, there are all sorts of different students who have all sorts of different preferences what their Dharma studies and Dharma practices, where they are concerned. There are those who prefer to practice a Yidam deity meditation, in the course of which they imagine themselves as the deity, repeat its mantra, etc., and so forth. There are others who just can't get their minds around that sort of practice at all, who prefer to simply sit and look at mind nature, sit and contemplate emptiness. There are those who by all means prefer very wordy explanations, long explanations and teachings and instruction. And there are others again who prefer short pith instructions which just bring the vital point across and go and meditate upon that. By all means, there are also those who are of extremely sharp intellect and who just need a few words of advice and immediately get the point. And then there are those who can be told and explained about all sorts of things, basically until the teacher is blue in the face and they're still not getting it. So in this way, there are all sorts of different people with all sorts of different capabilities and all sorts of different preferences. And because that is the case, whatever experience may occur in the practice of the one does not necessarily have to occur in the practice and the experience of another. In this way, we're all different, and in this way, our experiences may not necessarily correspond. Since individuals are, of course, as different as has been explained previously, also whatever experience and realization arises in their practice will be different. Accordingly, Kamachama goes on to say that for some there are great experiences and realizations right from the outset, whereas for others they will occur sometimes, and sometimes they will not occur at all. So some practitioners, by all means, a short time after they have begun practicing, they will have wonderful experiences of emptiness, of great bliss, of non-thought, and all the various experiences that go along with that, and will be able to remain in these experiences, and that is all nice and well. But there are other practitioners for whom just the glimpse of these may occasionally occur. And even if that glimpse would occur occasionally, at other times nothing happens at all. Nothing that they perceive, that they can see or feel happens at all. So because individuals are so different, their individual setup is so different, all sorts of different experiences or the lack thereof may occur. Finish this verse, Kamachama goes on to say that for some, these experiences will arise gradually and they will get better and better. However that may be, I, says he, shall explain the way in which they arise gradually. And accordingly, Rinpoche will also, of course, proceed step by step. So there are also, by all means, the type of practitioners who at first set out with practice, nothing much happens, but because of their diligently keeping at it, then experiences occur, they become clearer, they become better, they become ever more stable, because they keep at it, which is so necessary, as we have heard before. And whatever this gradual way of progressing along is all about, and how things do progress, we will then hear about eventually.
And I'm out of Tono, something new from the and Rinpoche and the Tenga gone. Then there is a combat everywhere.
It's the moment at which we should, of course, train ourselves in what we have heard, and needless to say, if we keep at it, eventually we will familiarize ourselves more and more with that type of practice.
I don't give a something never good. Some never get one, never young, but never money. You are then, you are saying, and it was our nature, some conversation.
As has previously been explained, when allowing consciousness to be conscious of itself, by all means we could experience a state that is free of any mental activity, that is totally tranquil, which would be called stillness. Or there might be the occurrence of thought activity of whatever sort. That would be the experience of movement. Either way, simply train in being aware of what it is. This way we bring these three of which we have heard before, stillness, movement, and awareness, together again. So let us practice in this way as has been explained in the previous days.
좋아요.